And you're live, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to this District Planning Committee today, 30th of July 2025. My name is Councillor Maddie Thompson and I'm the Chairman of this committee. Just to correct the agenda pack, the Vice Chairman is in fact Councillor Vanessa Bell, not as shown, Councillor Spenceley. However, she's none available tonight and Councillor Morgan has kindly agreed to assist me. I hope that's agreeable to you members. If you do have any objections, please speak because I do need your permission. Thank you very much. Members, we're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting you are giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. We do not have any fire alarm testing scheduled. If you hear the alarm, please exit using either of the two marked fire escape routes. Once out of the building, please proceed to the designated muster point located on the grass verge by the police station entrance. Members, it was fairly late issued, but there is a members update this evening which is referring to item 5. So, Ms Bird, could I have the apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Chairman, of course. Apologies have been received from Councillor Bell, Councillor Baum, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Lagan, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Siddle, Councillor Stamp and Councillor Wycke. Thank you, Chairman. Thank
you very much. Item 3 is the minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on 15th of July which are published on mod.gov, not with these agenda papers, it's a separate item, are approved as a true and accurate record. I'm going to take them as read and I so propose. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Morgan, thank you. Are there any matters of accuracy anyone wishes to raise? No, thank you. Moving on, item 4 is declarations of interest. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded they're also required to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware should the need arise during the meeting. Members, any declarations of interest? That's none, thank you. So we move on to item 5, our first planning application, which is land south of Wycke Hill and Limebrook Way. And may I say it is due to my miscounting of the vote that this is back as a fresh application rather than the adjourned item following the constitutional break. And I wholeheartedly apologise to all concerned for that. I give my thanks to Councillor Fluker for pointing out the error. This means all members present are able to speak and vote, not only those who were present on 15th of July. So we have Mr Johnson is going to give the presentation, followed by the public speaker, Mr Michael Smith, the agent. Mr Johnson, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this application 2500160 FULM concerns the construction of 90 dwellings together with open space, landscaping, vehicle access and pedestrian infrastructure. Land south of Wycke Hill and Limebrook Way. So, the current application site forms part of the wider area identified as Strategic Site S2A in the Maldon District Approved Local Development Plan, for which outline planning permission was granted in December 2016, following the completion of a Section 106 agreement for development of land for up to 1,000 dwellings and employment area of 3.4 hectares. So I'll just take you through the slides. So here we have the wider development site area. We have site S2A here, and we have the employment site over in this area. So as set out in the notes to the site, there's been a series of amendments and reserved matters consents for this site. I'm sure members are fully aware of this. The development was started in the early 2020s. number of applications have come through for various sites, and there have been various discharges of conditions, etc. So again, just running through the plans, wider location plan, and here we have a aerial photograph of the site. Some photos of the wider development, just to give some context of how a site S2A has been developed over these last few years. Here we can see some constructions currently underway, which I believe is probably phase 3, which adjoins phase 4, which is the subject site. Again, just some more photographs here, giving some context. Can always refer back to these if members do wish at any point in the presentation. Right, so here we have the employment site, our subject site here, phase 3 here, which members considered probably about 18 months ago, the wider site there. And here we have a larger scale outline of the application there. We can see there's a road running through the employment site, which would link in through the development, further access from here, this point here. So in terms of access to the A414, the site has a potential to be viably accessible. We've got some street scenes here, just showing various types of housing that's proposed within the scheme. And some more here. Again, if members feel the need to return to any of these, we can. This slide just sets out the affordable housing at 30%, which equates to 27 dwellings, 24 social rent, and 7 dwellings intermediate shared ownership. Again, just to say, in line with policy, the affordable housing will be pepper potted across the site, so they're just not isolated to one particular area of the development. Landscaping, again, as members know, for the wider site, there's been a significant landscaping strategy. This site continues that, with a large amount of open space on the boundary of the site, which also buffers the development from wider views from the countryside, contiguous with open spaces secured on phases 2 and 3, where they will link through. Large number of street trees, and there's a drainage basin integrated into the open space. General garden sizes here, and vehicle tracking in terms of how vehicles would move within the development. Sustainability credentials, these are all set out within the report that members will have had regard to. So I won't need to go through all of these, but can refer back if any members feel the need to. And the summary and planning balance on the slide, benefits, lack of a 5-year housing land supply, new windfall housing for the district on a sustainable location, etc. Then it talks about harms, etc. So I'll just go back to, I suppose this is probably this side, just to give the context. And I'll just run through a little presentation that I have in terms of the proposal in front of us. So, as stated, the current application site comprises the 4th phase of the western parcel and is to the west of phase 2 and 3, which are currently being constructed by Crest Nicholson. Now, essentially, this site comprises residual land following the implementation of the wider strategic development site noted above. That has permission as it's currently delivering 1,000 new homes. So, effectively, this is 90 dwellings over the 1,000 that was previously approved for the strategic site. So it's for 90 dwellings, comprise a mix of 1 to 4 plus bedroom homes. Site would be accessed via Carter Avenue to both the north and east, which is the principal road that serves a wider western parcel and in turn leads to Maldon Road. So the scheme comprises 63 market dwellings and 27 affordable dwellings. So the next part I'm going to read out relates to the members' update, which has been submitted, which is developments which have taken place since this matter was heard at committee last. So since the previous consideration of this application, the applicant has revised the mix of the market element of the scheme. And as stated, the market element comprises 63 dwellings. And just to refer to the members' update under 2, where it talks about proposed development, there is a sort of chart there which sets out the dwelling numbers and the percentages, etc. So you can see that there. Right. So the main change is that the previous iteration being what members had seen presented on the 15th of July, propose no one-bedroom units. Now, it should be noted that the requirement under the LHNA as a percentage is 0 to 10%. Hopefully that's self-explanatory, but that would mean that in the context of any particular development, if no one bedrooms will either fit the mix or whatever the appropriate argument might be, within the balance of mix of the proposal, that could be acceptable in probably, I would say, exceptional cases. But that's just to give some explanation as to what the 0 means in that. However, it is recognised that there needs to be considered in context of policy H2, which makes reference to the need to deliver a higher proportion of smaller 1 or 2 bedroom units. So that LNH guideline has to be considered in context of policy H2 and one of the main thrusts of policy H2 in terms of delivering or having a focus on smaller dwellings. So the updated mix now complies with the range. As mentioned before, with the previous iteration, there was no one-bedroom dwellings. Another point that was picked up was that with the previous iterations, the 4+ dwellings was over the percentage range as set out within the LHNA. That percentage range being 25, and the proposal was for 27. So that has now been addressed in that the proposal for 4+ dwellings now is within the range, and it is recognised this is at the higher end of the range, but it is within the range as set out within the LHNA. Also, although the range for 1-bed dwellings is 0 to 10%, that has been 4 dwellings has been provided now with the revised mix, and that's set out in the chart. So on the right hand most column, we can see that the number is 4 there, and all the various other numbers for the other units of bedrooms. So if we go back to where it says policy H2 and the LHNA, and we talk about the requirement 0 to 10%, next to that, the number of 0 to 10% on this scheme would equate to up to 6 dwellings, and 4 are proposed. The applicant has agreed through the discussions with officers that should members be minded to support this application, they'd agree to a condition to confirm the delivery of that mix. So, and also just to emphasize, the change in the mix will not materially alter the layout as you see here. So to all intents and purposes, the layout will not be materially changed in any significant way, apart from some tweaking of the respective dwelling types that will be proposed for the 1 bedroom and any other changes. So in general, the layout of this scheme complies with back-to-back distances. This is just in general in terms of what's proposed. It all meets the council standards as well as garden, amenity space standards and layout. Each dwelling would have parking spaces to the front and or side of the unit, and additional visitor spaces are pepper potted throughout the development. Now, further to the previous meeting, the applicant has confirmed that details have been submitted showing the position of photovoltaic panels. The sustainability credentials was raised at the last meeting. So there is a drawing showing the photovoltaic panels, air source heat pumps, an electric vehicle charging point for each plot, including those for communal parking. So, but in this respect, the applicant is also happy for an EV charging strategy to be submitted for any approval, should members be minded to approve this application, which would include future provision through the relevant ducting infrastructure in those non-assigned parking spaces. So this would ensure that there is a potential for all parking spaces as these may be required, and notwithstanding those confirmed directly for the dwellings, and also those units which may not have their own parking space, but those parking spaces are confirmed within the communal areas. Section 6 of the report sets out the planning balance and concludes that having regard to the council's 5-year housing land supply position at 2.7, the benefit of 90 units with 30% affordable housing and a mix of units providing for affordable market housing, together with the environmental enhancement of the existing site to provide housing consistent with the wider site, the development is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair. And as members know, if there's any questions on some points, I'll endeavour to assist. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So we have our public speakers next. That's the agent, Mr. Michael Smith. If you'd like to come forward, I think there's an empty seat somewhere. If we could get the clock up, please. That's the one. We need 2 minutes on it, please.
Oh, thanks. Sorry,
2 seconds.
I'm normally in the other seat.
Just 2 and then keep hitting zeros and make it move along.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Oh,
No.
No, sorry. Unaccustomed as I am. Right, 2,
0, 0.
there we are.
Set.
Yep. And then set. Okay.
Okay.
I'm there.
Okay, Mr. Smith. I know you know the rules, Mr. Smith. You have 2 minutes from when you begin to speak.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and on behalf of the applicant, thank you for the opportunity to address the committee this evening. I mentioned at the previous meeting we've worked hard with the council design and housing teams to make sure that a high quality scheme is created which continues the successful character of the garden suburb, delivering the density, layout and appearance needed to match the phases that have already been approved and are under construction. Following the discussions in the meeting, extra information will be added to the application pack to answer outstanding queries, and I'm pleased to confirm that electric vehicle charging points will be fitted to every new home, including those using communal parking, and the existing management company, which is already in place for the South Maldon garden suburb, will also take on the communal areas within the proposed scheme. The quick turnaround from the previous meeting means that conditions will be used so that more details can be submitted for approval. We've also taken a look at the proposed mix of accommodation, and the scheme has been revised to ensure that it is in line with the local housing needs assessment and policy H2, delivering smaller accommodation for sale on the open market by introducing 1-bedroom houses. With 6 1-bedroom apartments already proposed within the shared ownership element of the affordable housing, we thought that 1-bedroom houses would be a complementary element, catering for those who would like a small property with a private garden, in keeping with the character of the streets, and meaning that not everyone on the first rung of the housing ladder has to live in an apartment. The change can be made by cascading the number of bedrooms in the scheme, so that there are fewer houses with 3 and 4 bedrooms to balance the addition of 1-bedroom houses. This leaves the total number of new homes at 90 and avoids any changes to the affordable housing mix that has already been agreed with the Council's housing team. Once again, the applicant would like to thank the Council's team for their help in the preparation of a scheme that has a recommendation for approval, adding another 90 homes to the 1,000 which have already approved at the Garden Suburb. The proposed scheme has been designed in accordance with the Strategic Master Plan Framework, the Strategic Design Code and the parameters of the Outline Planning Permission, and continues the established character of the South Maldon Garden Suburb. There are no objections from the statutory consultees and no comments from the neighbours in the existing homes to the south. Therefore, I trust you will concur with the case officer's recommendation and resolve to approve this application for planning permission.
Thank you very much. Right, members, who'd like to speak first? Councillor Morgan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Actually, it's really through you to Mr. Johnson. I'm just, could you just clarify something? On the update, there's a plan, and next to it is a legend accommodation schedule. Have you got that?
Sorry.
On the update, there's a plan, and alongside it is an accommodation schedule.
I'm not sure which one is that. Oh, is that that coloured plan?
Yes.
Yeah, apologies, I don't have that in front of me. So.
Oh, okay. Well, well, essentially, I'll just for your benefit, it's at the top of it's got private dwellings, and it's got 4 Coveney 1-beds, which presumably are the 4 1-beds that are provided. But if you look down at the bottom, it's got affordable development, and it's got 2 bungalows, also 1-bedroom. So, does that mean there are 6 1-bedroom developments, or how could you just explain? How those fit together?
Well, there's affordable market dwellings, and then there's the affordable under social housing.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a split in terms of the tenure of the housing.
So overall, there are 6 1-bedrooms.
Overall, if you include in market and affordable.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Spenceley? Councillor Nick Spenceley.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, I'm grateful that some listening and some rethinking has gone on regarding the housing mix. I'm sure there'll be more discussion of that, but at first sight, I welcome that. There is a question about the floor plan on page 3 of the members' update. So this kind of revolves around the question of when is a bedroom not a bedroom, and my understanding is that 7.5 square metres is the minimum for a bedroom and a width of 2 metres and 15 centimetres. So on this plan we've got a study which presumably is smaller than that, but there is a kind of void behind the study, and we are told this will be 1 bedroom in perpetuity, but I'm just wondering what that void is just above the study there.
Thank you, Chair. That void is effectively roof space. It's just the nature of how the drawing has been done, as opposed to, if you can see on the ground floor, then it just shows the whole of the floor area up to the rear wall.
Thank you. Actually, now you say it, I see it's mirrored on the bottom of the drawing, so it's not possible to knock that study into a bigger area, which answers my question perfectly. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few different points. Do you want me to put them all to you at once, or should we do this iteratively, one at a time? Yeah, I prefer that. I really prefer that too. Thank you. At the last meeting, it was noted that Essex County Council Education hadn't put any comments yet. I can see on page 29 of the main pack that there are education figures, so I'm a bit confused about that. Have we got the figures we need now, or is that still in abeyance, please? Thank you.
No, we have the figures, and as set out in the substantive report, those would be subject of the Section 106 agreement. Should members be minded to approve, there's normally a little process of negotiating and finalising the Section 106. So what we have will then form part of how we then take the Section 106 forward. I mean, clearly, as members know, if there's no agreement under Section 106, no amicable agreement, then planning permission cannot be issued.
Thank you. My next question relates to the EV chargers, which last time we said should be conditioned. Am I right in thinking that they are now part of the application from what I've just heard, and therefore we don't need to condition them again, please?
For belt and braces, while we do have drawings, they will be conditioned for the detailing and the location of them. Sorry, I was just aware I hadn't turned on my microphone. Was everyone able to hear me? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Like Councillor Spenceley, I'm really pleased to see the figures being brought more into line with the local housing needs assessment, and bringing up the numbers of smaller properties. That's good. I just wanted to comment on some wording. It's not a question, but I just wanted to say that where it says there's no change to the mix of affordable homes, and it says that this has already been agreed by John Swords, and mostly if John Swords is happy with something, then I am happy with it, and I'm not trying to detract from that at all. But I just think we need to be quite careful with wording like that, because it's this meeting that agrees something. It's not an officer's position to have agreed something, and I don't suppose that's really what exactly was meant, but it could be a bit misleading to members of the public reading that.
So can I just come back on that? Obviously there's two levels of agreements when we're dealing with planning applications, and particularly planning applications that then come to committee. So the agreement with the professional officer is in terms of how that element of the development, whatever it might be, satisfies our standards. If we don't agree with it at that stage, it wouldn't even come to committee. So it's agreement in that sense. I can understand how, from how you're saying it, how the language can be sort of stretched and used, but that's what it means in terms of officers' agreement to it. An officer's agreement to it isn't an agreement to planning permission. It's just agreement to that element. Members have the power to grant planning permission or not, depending on whether you feel satisfied with the various elements.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I think that's exactly my point, that perhaps if it were to say has agreed in principle or something like that, I think it's just about getting the nuance of that sort of wording right. It's so that when members of the public read this, they do understand it. My last point is on page 34, Maldon Town Council put in an objection for various reasons. One of their reasons has a comment against it, but the other reasons there's no comment about it. One of them was transport plan, parking bays, EV charging points, we've covered that, landscaping and access to the A414. I just wanted to make sure that all of those have been addressed, because it doesn't say that they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Those matters have been addressed within the body of the report. Normally, the comments, and I can understand the comments on the town council, that would have come when you've got the application details in front of you, is for then officers through their report to assemble that and put it in a narrative that can be understood by laypersons and professionals alike, and particularly those making the decisions. So those points have been addressed.
Okay, thank you. I think again it's just useful if every objection or supporting comment has a note next to it, so that people can see, well, what happened to my objection, where is it? But that's all fine. Thank you very much.
I'll take that back to the officers.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Fluker and then Councillor Fitter.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Well, the first thing, Chairman, we seem to be getting bogged down with EV charging points. I mean, you'll be aware, and I have pointed it out to members before, there is a supplementary planning document that deals with car parking standards, and if members were minded to go to 4.13, you'll see what's actually required of all new developments. However, there's one point in there which speaks to the requirement to provide 5% of all communal parking bays with charging points. And unfortunately, when you drive around the garden suburbs, this is not being done. So whilst I hear what the applicant says, and they say that all of the properties where possible will have a charging point, that has to be achieved anyway. But where we've got these communal points, communal parking spaces, we really do need to make sure these charging points are installed, because to do it afterwards is a nightmare. John, I'd just like Mr. Johnson, just to cover that off, and then I'd like to come back on another matter. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Chair and Councillor Fluker. Yeah, that matter has been discussed with the applicant, and I think, as I set out, the applicant has agreed for there to be a condition where we can drill down to the details of the EV charging point locations. The specific issue about EV charging points to the communal areas has been discussed. And while there is not a plan, this could be subject to a condition to detail that specific element, so that all the spaces can be provided. In the written communication that I've had with them, at the very least, and this is notwithstanding the 5% requirement, all parking spaces will be provided with ducting to provide for any future. But through any discharge of conditions, should members be minded to approve the scheme, and with the submission of suitable details, we will achieve that.
So, if you allow me, Chairman, I was rather hoping, Ms Johnson, the short answer was yes, we'll apply the parking standards document, and in particular 4.13. Chairman, from in relation to the last time we met, I mean, since then it sort of appears that the applicants had a free pre-app. Bearing in mind they've managed to address nearly all of the issues that were raised by members. Perhaps we should charge them for it. Chairman, I think based on what's been said and the members' update in particular, which members received late this afternoon, Chairman, I'd propose that we support the officer's recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that seconded by Councillor Durham? Thank you. So proposed by Councillor Fluker, seconded by Councillor Durham. Thank you. Right, I have Councillor Fittook has asked to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. And yeah, I agree. It's a nice gesture by the developer to add some smaller properties into the mix. I have a problem with this still, in as much as we talk a lot about these LHA 2021, the local housing mix, but we've forgotten about the policy. And the policy is very much geared towards re-engineering the demographics of the district in terms of its housing mix, based upon census data from 2011. And that's generally what most rural areas are trying to do, because as they get growth, their housing stock is traditionally going to be large detached and semi-detached properties. So yes, the policy does say that we need to build more 2 and 3 bedroom, 1 and 2 bedroom properties, but it was in reference to a study, the SMAR, that indicated 60% of all of our properties should be 1 and 2 bedrooms to rebalance of stock over a period of time. So, I mean, in general terms, whilst we've now got a better offering, it's only, what, 21%, if I remember, 26%, as opposed to a 60% that we started off with. Now, this is where we run into difficulty, I think. We're using a local housing need assessment, and we're saying that we've got bands that we should work within. Well, okay, this is what the local housing need assessment says. However, whilst this report makes recommendations, it will ultimately be for the council to write into policy the approach which best meets their local circumstances. This could be, for example, a desire to further downsize or a pragmatic approach to constrain housing supply, both of which would see more smaller homes being built. Furthermore, it is a reasonable policy choice to ensure optimal use of existing stock. This would require the delivery of additional smaller high quality homes than the modelling would suggest, or specialist accommodation, which would encourage downsizing from unoccupied properties or underoccupied properties. The large properties are thus freed up for family accommodation. So whilst we're saying that we've got these bands to work within, in the context of the policy that we've got, I would argue the fact that the need has to be 10% 1 bedroom and 35% 2 bedroom, i.e. the upper level of the housing need assessment, albeit that we haven't agreed anything as members and we haven't got any policy to support this document that got produced. That really is a document produced for evidence of review of a plan. So we've adopted something. Now, the problem we have here is that when we look at the housing mix that we've got as extant supply, given that we have a plan that was found sound based upon a 60-40 mix, our extant supply is 30% 1 and 2 bedroom properties, which is half, and 70% 3 and 4 bedroom properties. Now, the net result of that is that every year, and you can look at the affordability ratios to attest this, the existing house price in the last 5 years, the median average ratio was 12.04. When you add in the new builds, which is the measurement that the government used, it increased to 12.8. So every year we're building lots more houses, but because of the mix and type that we're building, it's making us less affordable. Now, the end result of that is that whereas we start from a housing target of 239, because of our affordability ratio, the Labour government in its wisdom have targeted rural communities based upon the fact that they have got too many larger properties and they therefore are not affordable. So therefore we've been given a 141% uplift to our housing target to address that matter. Now, the problem is that if we don't have an housing mix that supports reducing the affordability ratio, we're going to build lots and lots more houses and further increase our affordability ratio, because the only way that we're going to change the ratio is to change the demographics of the district in terms of its housing mix, because that's what it is. So whilst I'm a supporter of this application, I do think we probably have to have further discussion about exactly what we're doing here, because it doesn't seem to me we've got a policy. We seem to have a free-for-all that developers can exploit, and with all due respect to planning officers, use as flexibility to gain consensus developments that we wouldn't normally as members expect to be reasonable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else, members? No, that's a no. So we have a proposal on the table, duly seconded. Those in favour, please show and keep your hands up while I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19. I didn't have 20. 20? Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? Right, that application is approved. I think we'll take that as a yes. That's what I thought. Okay, so that application is approved in line with the officer's report, the conditions and so on therein, plus the suggested extra ones. So item 6 is land at Broad Street, Green Road, Langford Road and Maypole Road in Great Totham. Again, we have the presentation by Mr. Johnson, followed by 2 public speakers, except I can't see one of them.
Someone assisted me online.
Miss Bird, are you able to help at all?
Sorry, I should really watch what the officers do when they do their...
Chairman, if Mr. Johnson closes that one down, the other one should be behind it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then you just need to click on the little play presentation icon. It looks like a screen.
Is this the one? Sorry, what was that icon?
Hold on, bear with me a moment. I can tell you where it is.
That's it. This one?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah.
Right, there we are. Right, good.
Thank you. Off you go, Mr. Johnson.
So out of practice with this part of it. Used to being on that side. Right. So I just gather myself. Thank you, Chair. As set out on the screen, this application proposes, in a nutshell, the variation of condition 20 on planning permission 15-00419 out. The proposal is for a change to the condition which would alter the trigger for the provision of that part of the relief road that lies between Langford Road and Maypole Road to be fully completed from prior to the occupation of the 100th dwelling to prior to the 26th of September 2025. Now, I think I'll go straight to the purpose of the update, which has been added to the report which members have in front of them, as that sets out the context for this application coming back to committee. So I may be just leaning on my text in that sense, yeah. So this application was originally considered at a meeting of the District Planning Committee on the 22nd of May 2025, which resolved to approve the application subject to the conditions and the Section 106 legal agreement amendment. The purpose of this update is to enable the committee to reconsider the application with the benefit of an environmental impact assessment, EIA, screening direction in order to ensure the decision made complies with the relevant regulations. Section 1.4 below hereby comprises the updated matters before the committee for further consideration and to ensure compliance with the legislation and the Constitution. This report will be required to be considered by the committee. So 1.4 of the report, environmental impact assessment. Following the conclusion of the committee meeting of the 22nd of May 2025, in which the committee voted to approve the application in accordance with officers' recommendation, it was brought to the attention of officers that a procedural error had occurred in their consideration and assessment of the planning application, which had the implication of materially impacting on decision taken by committee, subject to the completion of any legal agreement. So this was immediately investigated, and it was found that the error was that the applicant had specifically submitted a written request for the District Council as local planning authority to undertake an EIA screening of the Section 73 application. Where the applicant chooses to make this request, it is for the LPA to adopt or undertake a screening opinion within 21 days of receipt of the request to determine whether the development requires an EIA, i.e. a full assessment of the environmental impacts of the development on the local area. That screening opinion had not, however, in error been carried out, and it was well beyond the 21-day timescale in which it could be done by the LPA. A possible consequence of this is that any decision issued without the screening opinion having been carried out would run the risk of judicial review, with any such decision taken being quashable, potentially quashable in the High Court. It should be noted that the committee's resolution to accept the recommendation to approve planning permission is not the final granting of planning permission. Planning permission is only granted when the final granting of planning permission, a bit mixed up there, where the final granting of planning permission has been signed, dated and issued, together with any legal agreement, should one be attached. Given the circumstances and to safeguard the legal integrity and confidence in the recommendations and decisions of the District Council as LPA, the Assistant Director, Planning and Implementation, withheld the issuing of the decision until further review work was undertaken. Now, I'll just add in at that point that at that last committee, I was unaware that those processes had been carried out, except for a mention, probably about within the hour of committee, about a potential objection to the fact that there wasn't a screening opinion. And those members that were here on that day would recall the representation made in that respect. Now, I would admit that I wasn't aware of this. I suppose the processes that had gone through that was that a report was prepared by officers. That officer left, a new officer came and picked it up. So it was that sort of process that sort of took us through to where we were on that particular night. So I made representation in the sense that, in my opinion, the proposal did not trigger an EIA screening opinion, and members were aware of that. And clearly that had some influence in how members took their voting on that night. So I admit to that, and I'm fully aware of how that circumstance went through. Hence where we are and then what took place. So at 1.4.3, in circumstances where an LPA has not adopted a screening opinion within 21 days, a mechanism exists in which the applicant can themselves seek a screening direction from the Secretary of State, the SOS, directly. If the SOS concluded that the development was not EIA development, therefore no EIA of the development is required, the LPA could determine the application legally. So a screening application was submitted to the SOS on the 12th of June by the applicant, and a decision was received on the 21st of July 2025, which is set at the appendix to this report. So the following sections set out the Secretary of State's decision. I won't read through all of that. I'm sure members have sort of been throughout, but at 1.4.5, where it goes to the conclusion of the SOS report, the Secretary of State says, this application would not result in any changes to the consented development impacts of the development. Impacts of the development have already been assessed. That was under the original application back in 2016, 2017, or 2019. And it has been, so the scheme has been designed with mitigation through conditions and a Section 106 legal agreement to mitigate adverse impacts. Any change to the impacts due to the imposition of the amended condition will be limited. Overall, based on the available information, the Secretary of State has concluded that there are no other issues or factors in this case, in this specific location, that either in isolation or cumulatively indicate a likelihood of there being significant environmental effects from this proposal. EIA, environmental impact assessment, is therefore not required. So the recommendation for members is to approve the application, having regard to the explanation just given, and subject to the conditions as detailed in the report, to alter the trigger as proposed in the application proposal. Just one point to sort of add to that is that, and this is just in terms of the update on the Langford Road works. The initial phase 1 works have been completed under the temporary traffic lights. This includes a lot of engineering to form the new arms of the new roundabout and the preparation of phase 2 work. So this is just to set out that obviously works are currently taking place in conjunction with highways under the 278 agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now we have the public speakers. We have an objector, Mr. David Sisme, who I actually can't see is present. Oh, he's online. I understood he was going to be present in person. Miss Bird, can you help me? Is he online?
Chairman, I wasn't aware he was online.
No, well,
Got him down as being in person, Chairman.
Yes, me too, thank you. So we'll move on then in that case to the applicant, Mr. David Mosley, who is here. If you can find yourself an empty seat, please, sir. And again, if we could have the clock up. It's escape.
Sorry.
It's not real.
In full screen, try hitting escape.
I won't be that long.
There you go. Okay, Mr. Mosley, whenever you're ready, we'll start timing you.
Good evening, Chair and members. My name's David Mosley. I'm a project director at Countryside, who are the master developers at Westcombe Park. I addressed the committee in May this year. Members will recall that Essex Highways sought the programming of the tie-in works on Langford Road during summer 2025, when the traffic levels are generally lower. By way of update, as Mr. Johnson advised, work started at the end of June as programmed. The phase 1 work's now complete. We're now a week and a half into the phase 2 works, which includes removal of the existing road, and for which the full temporary road closure is in place. The tie-in works are on programme. Full opening remaining on track for the 19th of September of this year. And as previously advised, the intention being to finish the Langford Road tie-in works and open up the whole of the Relief Road. Members will note from the report that the Secretary of State confirmed our view, and also the view of your officers, that the variation sought doesn't require EIA, which was a view that the Secretary of State took. We fully support the recommendation of your officers to approve the amendment and commend this to members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Just first of all, just a point of clarity, paragraph 1.4.4, page 44. In the italics, the word devilment is mentioned. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I'm sure this report must have been read, but it says devilment. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That means reckless mischief and wild spirits.
Sorry, I just didn't hear that. Which word was that?
Yeah. So 1.4.4 on page 44, the second paragraph in italics. The word devilment is mentioned, which means reckless mischief and wild spirits. I mean, I think the point I'm making is it would be nice to be, all of us be put in our comfort zone insofar as these reports are read by somebody in advance of these meetings. But, Chairman, I'm sure the words development, unless anybody thinks it is mischievous and reckless and includes wild spirits. But Chairman, I mean, this is what it is, and you know, we are where we are. So, Chairman, I propose that we agree the recommendation at paragraph 2 on page 45.
Seconded by Councillor Burwood. Thank you.
I'm going to the pub now.
So, any other member wish to speak? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. I think I just want to make a comment really, but major planning applications are colossally complicated. Even this variation application comprises 24 different documents, and that's far fewer than many applications. I don't envy officers who must not only read and assess all of the documents, but also manage the whole process to make sure that nothing's missed. It's not a job I'd want to do. So I'm not asking this to try and catch anybody out. I sympathise with coping with that quantity of documentation, but in the spirit of process improvement, we're all human. I just wonder what can be put in place, and maybe this needs to be taken away from tonight, but I'd welcome the chance to discuss with officers what can be put in place to stop this recurring, because we've caught it soon enough, and I think we're going to move forward and we'll be fine, but it could have had a different outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to come back, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Stevens. That very matter is not lost on us. We have already started a process improvement around that very matter. It is a bit of an obscure element, one being the number of major applications we tend to get in context of the overall number of applications. There's even less limited number of the more principal officers who deal with that matter. So there's, yeah, I suppose there could be scope for something to just sort of go under the radar, yeah, which is what seemed to have happened in this case. But we have discussed that we have put a process in place in terms of a pro forma to how these major applications, which are could be subject to a number of legislative issues, unlike your bog standard rear extension, you know, that they be checked. So if it's a major application, as we know, these strategic sites have been around since, you know, the sort of mid-teens, and they've gone through all sorts of various iterations, and things happen, and the market changes, and all sorts of things happen, and some variation have to go through complex legal processes. Things can get lost in that. So the performer is to pick up on some of these issues, particularly around EIA, just by asking a simple question on a performer before you get into the fight. Is EIA required for this? So that will trigger that train of thought. So we have started that. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh yes, sorry, Councillor Durham. I did see.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Chairman, since the full road closure, not surprisingly, traffic has built up on some of the diversion routes. And I've had it reported that it's causing large tailbacks at Blue Mills Bridge into Wycke and Bishops, and the clerk there has requested that I ask Highways whether we could install temporary traffic lights on that bridge during the period of closure, which I've raised and requested, but I'm wondering whether the developer might liaise with Essex County Council Highways to facilitate that, which would save a lot of potential grief, particularly in Wycke and Bishops, where the traffic is backing up from Blue Mills Bridge, those that know it, almost right up to the village up the hill.
Okay, I'm sure Mr. Mosley heard that, and perhaps we'll take that away. Thank you. Councillor Paula Spenceley.
It was just to add, for Councillor Durham's benefit, that a resident of mine, Mr. Whedon, had already suggested that, and I had already put that forward to the developers, and I think it was already broached with Highways. Obviously, I agree. I think it would be better if we did have that there, but it seems, I think that was already brought up, so that you're aware.
Councillor Morgan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to add that if the developer does put the temporary traffic lights in, could he basically leave them there?
Fair point. That's a fair point. Okay, members, we have a proposal on the table duly seconded. Those in favour, please show. 20. Those against? Any abstentions? No. So again, that application is approved in line with the officer's report and the conditions and requirements therein. Item 7 is other items of business the chairman of the committee decides are urgent. You'll be pleased to hear there are none. So with thanks to officers and members of the public, I close the meeting at 28 minutes past 8. Thank you very much.